The following contest is scheduled for one fall with a 60-minute time limit. Making their way down the aisle, Carlos, Mark, Nick, and Remy, the Entrance Ramp Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Entrance Ramp Podcast. I am your host, Nick Vega, alongside my co-host, Carlos Rodriguez.
Hey, hey!
Mark Lindsay.
Hey now.
And Remy.
Hey, hey.
This show is a rapid-fire rundown of this week's events in wrestling with a set time limit on each topic. When the timer is over, you will hear the bell. Our first topic is Monday Night Raw. So, gentlemen, the first question I will propose is about Shayna Baszler, the big reveal that she will be the next opponent. I know everybody's chuckling about the biting, so I guess we'll just go right into it. Who wants to step up and talk about this biting episode?
Why? Why did they do it? Why are we talking about it? That Shayna Baszler did not need to do that to make an impact. She was over. She was over in NXT. Everybody wanted to see her make it to the main roster. She finally does, and they do this kind of shenanigans.
Yeah, that screams like old school Vince, doesn't it?
Like 1995 Vince.
Yes,
yes.
Like we have to do something
Must show
outrageous.
blood.
Yeah, we must show blood.
Or ketchup.
Or do you think it's a Vince thing, or do you think it's a Heyman thing?
I don't care. It sucked.
Yeah, no, that's fair. The whole beatdown beforehand was perfect, especially for Baszler. Like, she's such a strong character and she's legit. Like, you believe her because you know she's MMA. That this is fine. We didn't need the biting.
Well, Remy, let me ask you this question. Since Shayna Baszler has been inserted into this, Raw Women's Championship, do you think that she will be at Elimination Chamber? I'm thinking the Elimination Chamber match will probably be a number one contenders match, not an actual Raw title match. Do you think she would be in it?
In the Elimination Chamber itself?
Yes. Because she hasn't really earned anything. I mean, I guess she did beat them at Survivor Series, both her and Charlotte, right?
Yeah.
Or no,
Bayley.
Bayley.
I mean, I hate to fall back on, this tired thing, but I don't know. I don't know what earns somebody a title shot in WWE. I don't know what earns somebody a title defense. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what the rules are at this point.
And they could also do something where Becky demands to face Shayna, and Shayna says, nope, not going to do it. And then, Becky could defend the title inside the chamber if they wanted to go that route. Kind of like tease it. I mean, we all know that Becky's going to want to get her hands on Shayna.
Well, we also know probably that it'll end up in WrestleMania. But I just, there's so much time between now and WrestleMania. I don't see her, going right after the title.
I'd build it like we were talking about Brock Lesnar last week, where we would have Shayna just go in and just run shop in the Elimination Chamber as like, hey, look who I am. Look what I can do to the broader audience. So you do think that
she would be in the Elimination Chamber?
Yeah. I'd throw her in an Elimination Chamber number one contendership match, a la what's been rumored for Smackdown.
Okay. I could definitely see that. I guess my final question would be whether or not she is just a holdover for Ronda Rousey. Yes or no, gentlemen, real quick?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think she has to be, no.
No, I mean...
Well, we'll switch topics now, and we'll talk about Zelina Vega and her whole new, I guess, stable. I'd like to think that's what she's trying to grow. She has Angel Garza, and Andrade's suspended for the month, but he'll be back very soon. And then you have two, predominantly major Hispanic wrestlers. Do you foresee a stable being brought upon Monday Night Raw via the Hispanic community, essentially, Carlos?
Well, yeah, Heyman's always been a fan of Latino wrestlers and lucha libre style. He was the one who introduced America to the lucha libre style.
I was there the night that Rey Mysterio debuted in ECW against Juventud Guerrero. That was back in September '95.
Hell yeah, man!
So he's always been a fan.
Yeah, and that's Heyman's strength, is to showcase all this talent and things like that. I think right now the initial thing was that Garza is just a holdover till Andrade is, off the wellness policy. But every week he's proven himself. I wouldn't be surprised if Heyman's like, hey, look, like, he's been doing good. Can I have him? And Vince be like, yeah, he has actually been going, yeah, he can stay up here.
Well, I'm going to go a different angle if you don't mind me cutting you in.
No.
I know you're about to. Anytime that a stable is, I'm a big fan of stables.
Yeah.
I mentioned this several weeks ago. I love a stable. So, yeah, I would love to see some kind of like a Latino World Order type deal.
Yeah, I would
maybe
love
not
that
as a
again.
joke like that. But, like, I would love to see some kind of stable.
Do you think AEW has changed WWE's mindset of having stables? Because we went so long with everyone just being single wrestlers, and now we have stables popping up left and right. Remy,
if you ask Vince, he'll say no.
Of course.
Like, so
Yeah, it's-
course
yeah.
not.
the
It's his
official
idea.
answer is that AEW has changed nothing about their business. In regards to the question about stables, I mean, I'm curious as to how much pull Paul Heyman has.
well,
in
Eric
the creative
Bischoff.
process.
Eric Bischoff stated that Paul Heyman really doesn't have a lot of pull. Like, he lets Vince know, like everyone else. At the end of the day, we
Yes.
all know that at the end of the day, it's all Vince McMahon.
Yep.
XFL,
Ask George and Michelle.
Anything that's popped up in his life has always revolved around WWE or WWF. So I don't see him not giving the final decision. But continue your thought.
That's about what I had for that.
Okay, go ahead, Carlos.
I was gonna say we've talked in the past couple weeks about like our love for stables and big groups. Mark specifically. I want to reiterate. I would love to see something like New Japan where there's chaos and there's like 20 members of chaos, but that's not weird because they have their own things they're doing.
Right.
Or you have Suzuki Gun, and then you also have Bullet Club and things like that. Like they have their own topics and fights and everything, and it's not weird like NWO back in the day.
Right, and it's not forced. It's not forced down your throat.
Quick question, no. Rey Mysterio joins that group, yes or no?
No.
How about Dominic?
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Does Dominic join that group?
Yeah.
And that's how he gets that mask.
I do not know. I don't have an answer for
Come on, man. You asked a question.
Yeah, you asked the question.
I just don't.
Or is it Dominic
no,
in the
just
mask is making you laugh?
Just Dominic, and that's that specifically, not the question. But I do. Yes, I see Rey Mysterio joining because all he's done ever since he's come back is build up Hispanic wrestlers. Humberto, but Humberto's got like a little twisted side to him as we've seen, and maybe they just run roughshod all over WWE Monday Night Raw. Now I guess that goes into Randy Orton. I guess. Is he going to continue to attack people that try to come out and get an answer from him? Is he going to continue to just not give an answer until Ed shows up? I mean, we discussed this in a previous episode, but I was surprised that Matt Hardy, of all people, came out.
I love that Matt Hardy came out because his contract expires in March, right? I think March 1st. Either 1st or 31st.
Well, it seemed like that was a
No,
farewell.
I think it's the first. Well, he has one more match. A guy announced
Right.
last night.
Yes.
He has a match.
A street fight or
a
something.
street
No
fight.
DQ, yeah.
Monday.
No holds barred.
Thank you.
No holds barred. Yeah.
So-
Against
well,
Orton?
Yeah, against Orton.
This is another case, though. You're asking about the storyline being, carried through. Is Randy Orton going to keep beating people up? Well, all of a sudden, we see Matt Hardy get written off TV, and then it's announced via social media, that he's going to have this no holds barred match against Randy Orton on Monday Night
So
Raw.
that tells me that Orton's taking out Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy's disappearing for good, and no WrestleMania paycheck for Matt Hardy.
Well, Matt Hardy also tweeted out goodbye. So, I mean, that's as blatant as you can get.
Well, you don't think that the wrestlers would actually trick the fans on social media, do you? I mean, come on, Jericho.
Yeah. How dare they? No, I my interesting thing would be with Hardy. I recently go on shout out to the Kind of Wrestling group in Facebook, but someone brought up a topic. When the street fight got announced yesterday, they were worried that. Do you think they are going to do this as like, hey Matt, here you go. Here's some more creative stuff. This is what you wanted, right? Please stay with us. And he's pigeonholed, and then a couple months later, he's not used again.
Hello. I mean, that happened to what? The Revival, Gallows, and Anderson. Well, the Revival didn't resign.
Yeah, thank God.
But Gallows and Anderson resigned, got the tag titles right away, and then
And he
had
got
like
called
a
the best
2-week
tag
reign.
team. Yeah, and that's it.
And
They're
where are
done.
they now? What are they doing now?
it happens
They're
to
losing to Drew.
everybody
Yeah.
that resigns. That's been part of the low locker room morale that's been reported for a while. It's you're promised all these things. When it's time to sign a new contract, you ink on the line, and all of a sudden promises are broken.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right back in the same kind of area of frustration that you were in before.
So real quick, I'm just thinking, we all probably are going to assume Matt Hardy's done next week. He'll lose. He'll get beat up. Does Jeff Hardy return to avenge his brother? And that just continues the storyline.
That could fill in February, or that could fill in March until you get to April for WrestleMania.
Yeah,
right. Why not?
That's true. Yeah, that would be another holdover. He's clean. He's not hurt. I know he's not hurt. Right. So there's that. I know his contract got extended because
he wrestles. Well, time off. You have to add in.
Yeah.
He wrestles next week. Down in Florida. I don't know if it's on NXT or just around NXT, but it was reported that he was wrestling next week.
Oh, I wonder, like a performance center type thing.
Yeah,
just to get ring rust out.
Yeah, just to get it out of the way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess this leads me to my last topic, and the main event was yet again Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, the Viking Raiders versus AOP, and Monday Night Messiah and Buddy Murphy. When will this end? What is the end game, gentlemen? What do you see being the end game, Mark?
Well, I'll tell you what. For all that we can complain about WWE, I cannot complain about the storyline, and I'll tell you why. They are trying to make stars out of AOP. They are trying to make stars out of Buddy Murphy. They are pushing Samoa Joe. They are pushing Kevin Owens, a former Universal Champion. I have no problem with the storyline because they're trying to get newer talent over. Yes, is it repetitive? That's the problem with a 3-hour show and the roster the size of Raw. You're going to have similar matches. You're going to have matches on free TV that hopefully would build to a pay-per-view with a cage or a Hell in the Cell or an Elimination Chamber as a closer for the feud. Yeah. But I have no problem with it because they're trying to get people over. It's refreshing on that aspect of it, but then again, it's kind of similar with SmackDown and Roman Reigns as well.
I was going to say the same thing, yeah. On my end, covering SmackDown, seeing Corbin and Reigns go week after week after week, and it's goddamn dog food. Like, they mentioned it again. And I just feel like Michael Cole is trolling me specifically at this point. But no, it's the same thing. Like, you think the blowover has to be Elimination Chamber to start building toward WrestleMania, correct? Like,
well, what is the end game for WrestleMania? I guess that's my next question. Is what is all this losing for the Viking Raiders and Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens done for them in terms of me caring?
Yeah, what happens with the Raiders when it's going to be Seth and Buddy versus?
But I just don't understand what the end game is. What is that? Like, Kevin Owens just doesn't want Seth Rollins to run roughshod. Okay, I get that. And then the rest of them got beat up.
I mean, I think what the end game here is that one of these guys wins the Andre the Giant Battle Royale.
Oh, yeah.
We're saving that for Hulk Hogan. Stop it.
Hogan's coming back and winning it.
Dude, well, no, that's what I'm thinking is going to happen, but I don't want to get off topic here. We can talk about that later.
I mean, has Hulk Hogan ever come back to lose?
Well, no. Hulk Hogan probably, in the shape he's in, probably can't be thrown over the top rope. So if Hulk Hogan comes out to WrestleMania for one more match, he's going over.
Yep. I mean, that was his strategy all along. Is if you can't throw me over the top rope, I can't lose, brother.
Well, that's why Iron Sheik won the WrestleMania 2017.
Oh, yeah.
He won the gimmick battle royal because he couldn't be thrown over the top rope. He had a bad back.
Yep, I forgot about that. Yeah, I remember listening to that recently. That is hysterical.
Yeah, I don't know what the end game is because the world title seems to be off the menu for all of those guys.
Yeah. With
Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre. So I'm okay with it. I don't think Seth Rollins needs the title because he's over. He's a star. He's a made man.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he's elevating Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe at the same time.
Yeah, I would love if this built to something where Joe doesn't necessarily have to be a heel, but if he builds toward WrestleMania like as a contender for Drew, like Nick said, I think 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if Samoa Joe just turns his back and ends up joining the Monday Night Messiah. Like I said, I
hate losing.
I see it as a church. I see it as more than 4 people. And I mean, you're going to need more than that to take Brock Lesnar again. And, Seth Rollins was poking the bear. I'm glad you mentioned the whole world title picture because now I can see, in my mind, the end game being Seth Rollins trying to get his world title back.
With a crew behind him.
With a crew behind him. So for that, we're going to switch it over to All Elite Wrestling. Remy, you want to give us a breakdown of this week or have questions for us?
Well, there was a lot of newsworthy events this week for AEW. So, I mean, you asked me, just from the top of my head, if I were to name, the most important thing that happened in wrestling in general this week, I would have a toss-up between multiple things on AEW. So, maybe this isn't at the top for everybody, but a big one for me is what a smart piece of business it was for Nyla Rose to, not only win the AEW Women's Championship, and we really haven't talked about this much because there hasn't been a whole lot of newsworthy events going on in the women's division in AEW, but no matter what, I mean, she beat Riho for the title. So that's building a history between them, and in addition to that, I mean, it's historic. It's incredibly historic to have this happen on national television. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I guess, I'll just start with Mark. I mean, how do you feel about it?
Well, there's always going to be people out there that make snide, rude, crude jokes about Nyla Rose, but the fact is that it's something that Brandy and Cody kind of marketed from the very beginning in AEW. They were going to have something for everybody, and they were going to cater to all the fans. And you have a huge LGBT group out there that probably the only thing that they felt recently was Finn Balor taking on rainbow tights. There are many gay wrestlers, and now we of course know transgender in wrestling today, but they're not. Maybe on Twitter you see it, you see their private life, but you don't see it showcased on the major networks. And this enabled. Now it's very. I don't want to sound like that guy. Get off my lawn. It's very, murky waters. They have to be very careful to tread in a way that they're not going to offend anybody. And somebody's going to naturally end up being offended or have a problem or not watch it. But they have to be very careful, walk on eggshells on how they go forward because, Awesome Kong got taken out. She's gone. That's a match I wanted to see for that women's title. We had mentioned before bringing in someone like Gail Kim to kind of steady. Well, now Impact's going down the drain. Bring in Tessa. Have Tessa and Nyla Rose. That would be awesome. But
yeah, I would love something like that. I think Nyla Rose, if anyone's going to pull off a storyline and treat it with the respect that it deserves, it's going to be AEW.
Yeah.
Their inclusion that everything they've done recently points to them. I still, me and Remy went to episode 1 of Dynamite, and we both walked away thinking that Nyla Rose should have just won that night. No offense to Rio, I think she was great, but I think Rio's schedule too, just brass tacks business. Her schedule is rough. She has to go to Japan. She's mainly a Stardom person. I know she signed with AEW. I believe it's Stardom, correct? Or one of the women's promotions, the Joshi promotions over there. She's mainly over there, and that schedule has to be rough, like flying back and forth and stuff like that. So we have Nyla, who's here in America, who can show up to all the shows, do everything that she can, and I think it's perfect for that sense. And then the inclusion aspect of it, I teared up. And I wasn't even watching. I just looked on Twitter and I teared up. I have a friend who's transgender, and that's awesome. Can you imagine if he was young, and if he was a young kid now and seeing that, he wouldn't feel weird when he wanted to transition. He would feel empowered. That inclusion is always amazing, and it works vice versa with look, Santana Ortiz are in the main event. I'm Puerto Rican. That's amazing to see that. A little kid sees that and they're like, that dude looks like me. And he's wrestling, if he knew wrestling, like Dean Ambrose. That's amazing. It shows this beautiful, image that anyone could do this. It's not just, no offense to anyone, it's not the blonde-haired white dude with blue eyes like Cody. And Cody knows that. And he's like, anybody can do this. Anyone could be me. Anyone could be Kenny. Anyone could be Jericho. It's amazing.
Well, not many people can be Jericho.
That's fair, yeah. You need 40 years of wrestling.
I guess, in addition to all of that, I like that it gives women on the roster someone to fight against, someone to overcome. Like you said, just somebody being there. on a daily, on a weekly basis. It's going to make the title more relevant. So I guess maybe we can narrow this down to 3 talking points this time around. This week, I think we saw much more focus on storylines in AEW. Storylines and improved production as well. I don't know if this is from... They did acquire Impact's production team, if I recall.
Yeah, it was like a week before. Like, it was like before, like a couple days before that taping. Like Impact didn't want to pay their crew, and like they wanted contracts. They didn't want to give them contracts. They wanted to do like per diem. And AEW was like, we got guaranteed contracts. Come over here.
Yeah, so I mean, it's already starting to show.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll say this too. Especially if you listen to Jim Cornette's podcast. Jim Cornette is one of my favorites to listen to. He's not a big fan of Tony Khan. He's not a big fan of Kenny Omega. But it's been reported recently that Tony Khan has been the main booker.
Yeah,
he's been the main. And Cody and the Elite and the AO, they all have their say in their storylines. But it's been run by Tony Khan, and Tony Khan is kind of like
he's
us. He's my Nyla Rose. He's like he's us. He's a fan of wrestling who just happens to have the means to have a promotion. And I was a little hesitant at first because if you give someone like that all the power, you could be power hungry, and I think he had some big learning curves and maybe some mistakes early going. But the ship has, I would say, ever since Bash at the Beach, he had that show in Miami, then he had the cruise. Every show since then has been a well-oiled machine, better storylines. We've never complained about the in-ring action. Mm-hmm. We've never complained about the actual matches. Some of us have complained about the character development, the pace of the show, but we've never questioned the actual matches. And they're still delivering. They're still winning the quote-unquote Wednesday Night War. And I'm just excited to see what 2020 brings.
Yeah, and look, we're 4 months into the promotion.
Yeah,
4 months.
Yeah.
Almost 5. And the improvement is drastic. It has been really impressive. Last week, like this Wednesday alone, was probably the best episode of everything that happened this week. And it's not just the Nyla Rose thing. It's not... I mean, look at just the production value, the story like you mentioned, and then now, the talent that they're bringing in and the flexibility of that talent. Having Jeff Cobb come in, and it being reported later on that he's not signed exclusively. He's still a free agent. He's still able to work with ROH, still able to work with New Japan. I don't think if he was guaranteed, I'm sure they'd give him like a bigger spot. If let's say they had a mid-card title yet, I'm sure he'd be like, he was a TV champion ROH. That's a perfect title to give to him if that was like an AEW thing. But I'm sure since Santana Ortiz, those people are signed, they'll get more of the showcase. But Cobb's there. He's this mercenary. Like, that's perfect. Mm-hmm. That's perfect. They know what they're doing. They know they want to work with people in this new era of wrestling that we have.
And if they're going to take on Vince, they need to unite. They need to be one.
Yeah, you mentioned that before.
So I guess it's kind of our merged third talking point here for AEW. As you had mentioned, Jeff Cobb coming in, and I find that to be really interesting because, do you guys think that this is the beginning of a working relationship between Ring of Honor and AEW?
100%. I totally see a working relationship. That's the best thing for them to do. It was Ring of Honor that pretty much propped up AEW at the very beginning.
Yeah, it was.
They crippled their own business by propping them up. So I don't see why AEW wouldn't return the favor. And in turn, it just is smiles all around. Now New Japan might get involved because they see how a working relationship is. And then that just, now WWE has a bigger problem on their hands in terms of having all the wrestling companies come against the big bad wolf, and it's great for wrestling fans all around. It's not bad for business because all it will do is put up productivity. I do agree with you, gentlemen, in terms of production has gone up 1,000%. People can actually hear what's going on. We were at live events where we couldn't hear Jericho at all. So, we just said, 30 billion times. And I could just see beautiful things for AEW in the near future.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But even more, I'm a fan I will watch no matter what, or I will at least pay attention. I don't know if I'll watch. I'm somebody who wasn't familiar with Cobb prior to this. So for I'll say the casual fans, it was something new. It was refreshing. Who's this guy? And then you guys showed me the video of his, all his moves and
PWG.
Yeah, PWG. So that's what's nice about AEW is that, back in the day, the NWA in the 80s used to, hey, this guy's coming in. He's a former world champion in another company. They used to acknowledge the past that the wrestler had. Right. It wasn't like, oh, this is a brand new guy that we're going to,
John Morrison's been gone for 8 years.
Yeah, right, exactly.
He hasn't done anything.
He hasn't done anything. So, that's what I like about AEW. They're not afraid to mention the competition. They're not because you're trying to draw in that casual fan. And I really like the fact that this guy seems like a big guy. And he works for Ring of Honor, right?
Yeah.
So we had discussed this, I think, during our first episode about Marty Scurll staying with the Ring of Honor.
Yeah, he's the most important person in wrestling, I think.
Right. And he has contacts with AEW. He has contacts. Obviously, he's in ROH. He's the head booker for ROH.
He wants that NWA title too.
He wants right. This is. You don't have to have a partnership. You don't have to have a full-fledged merger. But if you have hey, let's get together and have a super show, or let's get together and have my guy challenge your guy for the title, you're only putting over talent. You're not.
Everybody loves a crossover.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm getting shades of peak WCW here, where it's like you have, kind of these working relationships with smaller promotions, and they benefit from it in their own ways too, because you're getting them on network television. Like they're stars on network television. That builds name recognition. That's good for the shows that you're putting on that don't necessarily have as much visibility. I mean, it is a win-win.
And I guess we'll switch topics. We're doing something different this week since NXT has a pay-per-view this weekend. We'll cover NXT and NXT Takeover Portland at the end of the show. So we're going right to Friday Night Smackdown.
Oh, joy, guys. Yay.
AKA dog food.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks, Michael Cole. I feel like Michael Cole, if you're listening, please stop trolling me with this. Please just stop trolling me with this.
Michael Cole, if you are listening, please continue to troll him.
Yeah. No, ultimate move is it's Michael Cole coming back wrestling. I'm like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that at all. All right, so we had this week, again, as always, the women were top stars. So my first topic is going to be, we had the opening match was for the SmackDown women's title, Carmella versus Bayley, in a pretty decent match. It was actually fairly decent, and Bayley won with, her legs on the rope, very heel tactic. Afterwards, she attacked Carmella, and then Naomi came out for the save. They kind of fended her off. So now we have a number one contendership match for the SmackDown women's title next week, and the winner of the match actually will take on Bayley at Super Showdown, the second ever women's match in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, history being made.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. So, first question is, who do we think is going to win the number one contendership match next week between Carmella and Naomi? Nick.
I see Naomi winning. She's the next logical person to go against Bayley. Also because I don't see her winning the title. I'm pro Bayley now. I mean, the way she has acted ever since her heel turn, pro Bayley. I don't see her losing the strap anytime soon, unless it's from Sasha Banks.
There we go. Mark.
I would say Naomi only because, she came back from injury, looked really good at the Royal Rumble, had that Kofi Kingston-like spot where she was trying to hop around the ring.
She does those pretty well.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah,
She's the Kofi Kingston of that match.
Absolutely. And I just think that she's earned the right. I mean, Carmella has been a laughingstock for many people, especially with coming off of the R-Truth. And I think they did a good job of building up Carmella to be respectable. And that's what they needed to accomplish with that. And they did that.
Yeah.
So there's no threat. I don't think anybody thinks Carmella's going to win the title. Have no Naomi challenge for it.
Yeah, they made her at least a contender again in that women's division, which was, I think, like you mentioned, the crux of the storylines recently. And so, Remy, going off of what Mark said and Nick, that Naomi's this Kofi Kingston-esque, do we get like a Kofi Mania 2.0 this year with Carmella? I mean, she doesn't necessarily need it because she has the history behind her, but Do you build her, just continue loss until WrestleMania she gets that huge pop moment again?
I mean, I don't think so. And I think more beyond that, to just sort of like gender bend the whole Kofi Mania kind of angle, I think is maybe a little... I think it'd be a bit much. I don't think that's the way to go.
Yeah, okay. I think... I don't see that going that way. I only mentioned that because I did see that on social media last night as I was prepping the show. I was like, I wonder if anyone sees that. I don't see it that way. I think we'll build to something else.
Well, people forget how horrible that Kofi build was. It was excruciating at times. They may have been just better off announcing the match and then having 2 months to build up towards it.
Yeah,
but
the
every obstacle, it just
gauntlet
was,
matches. Like
was
the first and the tag one were the best, and then having Kofi do one more. That's when I was like, I honestly at that point I really didn't feel like it was going to happen last year. I felt like Vince was just trolling us, and it was just like, oh look, he's a good hand. Like,
yeah.
All right. So second topic, Sheamus defeated Shorty G and Apollo Crews in a handicap match. I mean, they had some offense, but it was mainly Sheamus' show. So what do you think the plans for Sheamus moving forward are, especially now that he's just dominating actual roster members, not necessarily like younger talent?
The dude's a former world champion. Several times. Was in one of the better tag teams in recent years with Cesaro in the Bar. I have no problem with that. No problem whatsoever.
Yeah. Do you think it builds to what do you think it builds to toward WrestleMania season?
Intercontinental title, him versus Braun Strowman.
Yeah, why not? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Two brutes just slugging it out for 10 minutes. Gives them both something to do. It gives Braun Strowman a notable win. If they are fighting, I would pick Strowman to win because you had to build up new stars. And Sheamus is a made man. He's got everything Hall of Fame career. I see him getting into that Intercontinental title picture.
Yeah, that's good.
Maybe even joining Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura, and his partner Cesaro.
I would love that. Another stable.
There we go. Yeah,
keep building them up. That's strength in numbers. Strength in numbers.
Yeah, I like that. Remy, what do you think about Sheamus?
I mean, in regards to what you all said, like stables are always great because of the way that you can keep people in storylines and rotate matches. You can have fresh matches on a weekly basis. So, I mean, I liked the idea of, Sheamus kind of going into an intercontinental, title build. And he is somebody that, has the legitimacy, has, the career that you can kind of pile behind that could make the intercontinental title actually matter. We'll see if... anything actually comes out of it.
So did Shinsuke, but they didn't actually use him,
Yeah, it seems like the mid-carders, the mid-card champions, they don't use them very properly. They'll win a belt, and then they'll just have the belt. And it's like, just watching Dean Ambrose or Jon Moxley, have the title. He had it for a whole year and some change, and had
rarely defended
4 or 5 matches.
It was a garbage title run.
Yeah, so I feel like they just treat mid-card titles like trash. This is an actual opportunity to build that up, and 1 versus 4, one monster versus 4 men. They could possibly take it from him and play hot potato for a little bit, and that's fine with me too, because there are, like I said, strength in numbers. So I could see each of them getting a title reign and putting it on their belt, except Sami Zayn. For some reason, he is hated. So,
well, I would also say that Sheamus is somebody that he doesn't need the group. He could be on his own.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. I like the idea of what Nick said, having Sheamus lose to Braun at WrestleMania, so it looks strong. And even that Thursday or Friday, pardon me, he can win it. Back just to give Braun that WrestleMania moment, not just having a Nicholas Braun moment.
Come on, Nick.
Yeah, that's Nicholas with an H. We're not the same.
I thought it was funny when it happened. I don't think I was as this promotion is dead forever.
No. I like the moment. I feel like Braun definitely deserves something. I like that he has a singles title. It's a long time coming.
At least if they were doing that, I would have responded better if they would have just let Braun go 1 versus 2 in a handicap match, and then properly lose the title.
I mean, if Taker can do it at WrestleMania,
if
Braun
Mick Foley
can do it. Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's just it's funny to look back and see that, like, Nicholas has a WrestleMania moment and so many other people don't.
Yeah.
Or Snoop Dogg.
Yeah. Right. All right. So third topic of the day, and this is more like a IMO, my own opinion kind of thing. We had a interview with Hulk Hogan exclusively from his home, with all the NWO merch he just randomly has in his house. And the Fiend interrupted, but the beginning of the interview via satellite, it seemed like WWE or I want to point fingers, Fox muted the crowd. I felt like I heard boos and then silence, just Michael Cole and Hogan, and I feel like we've never seen anything like this when we do via satellite stuff. You can still hear the crowd. I don't know if it's something that, in my opinion, am I hearing the mute because I don't like Hogan? Personally, like, I've never met the man. I know what he's done for wrestling, but he's also has a checkered past.
That's the best way to go.
Yeah, that's the best way, Nick. Yeah, yeah, it's a checkered past. So do you think we're gonna see more of Hogan, where he's never gonna go away, correct?
Yeah.
So is this something they're gonna do until we forget, or are we never gonna forget?
We'll never forget, but they'll make us forgive him in some capacity by popping up ever so often. Like you said, he's Hulk Hogan. Without him, I mean, wrestling may not be what it is, unfortunately. But they'll just continue to box it out. They do it all the time. They've pumped crowd noise to cheer. They pump crowd noise to silence. WWE will do whatever it wants to protect itself.
Yeah, Remy, what are your thoughts on Hogan and the WWE situation with the fans?
I mean, people aren't going to forget what Hogan has done. A lot of people aren't going to forgive what Hogan has done. It's just karma coming to collect. And I mean, that's not going to go away. I think that WWE has this problem, and they've had it for a very long time, especially in the modern era, in this whole reality era, and the era in which you can just, pull a device out of your pocket and look up whatever you want to know. You cannot force the audience to like Hulk Hogan. That may have worked in the 80s.
Yeah, not anymore.
It does not work now. You can't force the audience to like Roman Reigns. You can't force the crowd to like anybody, and I think that's a problem that's inherent to Vince's whole business model. It's a problem with Vince, and I mean, I don't think that it depends on the crowd. It depends on what town you're in on any given night.
I'm going to politely disagree, and I'll tell you why. And people, friends and family who are listening to this will not believe that I'm actually going to try and defend Hulk Hogan, so I'm going to try and be careful.
Oh, that's fine.
Fox has SmackDown. When you're a Fox executive and you hear the name Hulk Hogan, you don't care about what he said in the past. And that, I'm not saying that's right, because it's not. But it all comes down to that money dollar, and Fox had Hulk Hogan on SmackDown, and we'll find out what the ratings were. But that's my point. I'm not forgiving what he did. What he did was wrong, and he's paying for it, and he needs to rebuild that trust again. But when you're Fox and you want the big stars, you don't get any bigger than Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, Mark, my question to follow up with that would be, what do you think the crowd reaction is going to be at the Hall of Fame when the NWO gets inducted? Because that's not a crowd you can mute. Like, we're going to hear that live.
I think you're going to have like 80% cheer and an occasional boo. Yeah. You might have a cat call where you're a racist or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like there might be someone trolling.
Yeah.
Hall of Fames are kind of rough to watch from a fan's perspective. Not to crap on any other fan, but like, having fans is always weird to me at the Hall of Fame. Only like so many fans, because I feel like you'll just get people just to boo because they want to boo, cheer because they want to cheer.
They shouldn't be there.
Yeah, anytime they showed Cena in the past, correct? Or like when The Rock ran down Cena as a joke, but that's between them. It should be like an insider thing. It should be like the Oscars kind of thing, where it's like, hey, I know you, so I'm gonna make fun of you, but like,
I mean, wasn't the very first Hall of Fame here in Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken?
In '95, the King of the Ring. But I'm going to touch off of what Carlos has said though. If it's not for the fans, are you going to charge the wrestlers money to be there? So
Yeah,
it all
fair.
comes down to money.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah.
No, definitely. If someone's willing to pay, they'll go, and WWE will gladly take your money.
Absolutely.
But I do agree it should be a private ceremony, 50, 100 people maybe.
When we combine our bank accounts and we can buy WWE, we'll make it a private account.
There we go. There we go. Yeah.
Until we don't. Until we see how much money they make, and we're like, they had the right.
I think if we combine our bank accounts, we should be able to buy one ticket for one show.
Yeah. We'll all stack up like Voltron style and just walk in a giant trench coat.
Right. Yeah. Trench coat and hat.
Yep.
Vince
exactly.
an adult man.
Yeah. Gives an adult man thing. Good. All right. So that closing off of this, one last little thing. It could be within this time minute. Is love dead?
No.
Because Otis, Dolph Ziggler, stepped in for Otis. Like, he's on this date with Mandy that has been probably the best storyline that SmackDown has right now, and Mandy and Ziggler broke his heart. How dare they? How dare they? And so, Nick, is love dead?
No, love is not dead, but. This storyline eventually will die, and basically just because Mandy Rose is a heel, she should remain a heel, and I could see her just using Otis to get the tag titles from the Kabuki Warriors because it's been a long time since Fire and Desire, should have gotten.
They did, yeah, they deserve it.
I mean, they've been a proper tag team for a long time, even before the titles, so they should get a run at that. And I just see her using him.
Yeah, I mentioned that I thought they could play it off where she's still like a good person, but when you mentioned that before show, I was like, yeah, I see it that way, Mark.
I think you're still paying back, and I'll make this quick. Don't forget that Dolph Ziggler made out multiple times with Guerrero, Vicky Guerrero.
Yeah.
So payback, he needed somebody like he needed to make up for it.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. That's good.
All I'll say is love is a two-way street.
All right, so before we finish SmackDown and we're going to get NXT, I kind of spring us on you guys. I did want to talk, because we're not covering too much news this week. Simone Johnson is WWE's first generation superstar at 18 years old.
Fourth generation.
Yeah, fourth. Pardon me. Yeah, fourth generation superstar at 18 years old. What do we see her career? Do you think she has it? Which is no offense to her, but she is 18, just starting at the Performance Center. Does she have it? Does she have the most pressure that any wrestler's ever had?
2 words for you: Charlotte Flair.
Right. Yeah.
Exact same thing. Now, it all comes down to one thing: hard work. You could say whatever you want about Charlotte Flair. That woman works. She flies everywhere. She travels. She does all the media. And then she goes out and she wrestles and wins titles. She gets better each week with the promos. I don't know because we just don't know. I wish her all the best because that'd just make it easier for women's wrestling with having such a predominantly important figure in her father and her grandfather and her great grandfather. So there's a lot of history there, but it all comes down to hard work.
All you can say is that The Rock probably got her the chance. I mean, let's just and that's all he can do. Get her in the door. Mm-hmm. She needs to do the work. She needs to make it work. I mean, we've seen similar situations with the Tamina Snuka. You have these generational talents or these second, third generation talents. Yes, she's a fourth, and that's a great storyline. But if she can't wrestle, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So a lot of it falls on her. A lot of the pressure falls on her. And I'm pulling for her, but it doesn't hurt that you have The Rock in your corner.
Yeah, I mean, I wish her all the success in the world. I want to see her succeed. I want to see her do well. There's no guarantees. I mean, for every Randy Orton, you've got a Ted DiBiase Jr.
Yeah.
Or David Flair, yeah. Like, he had some talent, it just never amounted to much in WCW,
yeah,
unfortunately.
You've got guys like, Bo Dallas, he can, he's got the tools, but,
Never given the chance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's...
a half a chance.
But if you're The Rock's daughter, you're going to get your chance.
Yeah, you're going to get the full chance.
That's the benefit of being...
She'll get the full treatment the second she touched down in
it's odd. Sometimes we think that nepotism, and let's be honest, that is what this is.
Right.
Nepotism, we think that nepotism makes things easier for people, but it creates expectations. It creates resentment. So she's going to have to work twice as hard as anybody else. She's got 10 times as much to live up to. You're talking about like the greatest crossover star in the history of WWE.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, we all here at the entrance ramp wish her the best, but
we're gonna be watching. It's gonna be fun to watch.
Everyone's gonna be watching. All eyes will be on her coming up into the WWE. So for the last show, we're gonna talk about NXT this week, and we're gonna cover everything from this week's show to NXT Portland and our predictions. So we're gonna start the timer this week at 20 minutes. Gentlemen, I guess the first thing we'll talk about is this week's Velveteen Dream versus Roderick Strong. That looks like it's coming up next week. NXT seems to be building this week's show for next week because they have Portland, so they really don't have much to cover in terms of, just recapping. What do you think the end game for Roderick Strong versus Velveteen Dream is? Is it going back for the North American title, or is it just pure personal vendetta for the both of them? I guess
it's personal, because I think Keithley is taking that North American title and he's going to go his own direction with it. I think I mentioned it before, the homage to Rick Rude was awesome, and it was just repeated this past week. So I'm thinking that they don't need a title, they don't need the North American title. This is a feud that both men are over. They don't need the championship, and of course you have a cornerstone of the UE, where he's involved in a program that's not going to be a 4-way or a 3-way tag.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that a lot, and I think it helps too that this doesn't just feel like a program to keep these guys busy while somebody else chases the North American title. It helps that you have this personal element, and it's odd. I've talked before about how much I hate throwbacks, where you have you kind of have, the shades of Stone Cold, Becky Lynch driving the ambulance back, and like
I'm surprised that didn't come up.
That well, that I think it
that
came
was
up
my
in our
text,
reaction.
right?
The less we talk about that whole segment, the better.
But those kinds of throwbacks, they don't work because they're out of context. But the Rick Rude homage that you have with Dream, that really works, and it shows you how good a student of the business he is, and how unintrusive NXT is, by comparison as well, because it's context. It's all about context. And you go after somebody's significant other, it really doesn't get more
and
personal
their child,
and their child.
Yeah,
I'll be their dad, and he's not a heel. He's a face,
right?
For all
which is
intents
even
and purposes.
better.
Yeah. It's like you mentioned this last week. We've never seen that before with a face doing that.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions too. Is who is the face and who is the heel in this match? Because from the outside looking in, it looks like Roderick Strong is the face. He's getting his family. His family.
Let me tell you a little
is being
story.
targeted.
Let me tell you a little story that happened in 1989 before you guys were born, and that was Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. And Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage had a tag team match, and Elizabeth got hurt, and Hulk Hogan tended to her. And at the time, the fans were like, wait, this dude, Hulk Hogan, is messing with this guy's wife. And we all kind of thought Savage was the face, but he was the heel. So you have something here. Here's a guy attacking a man's wife and kid.
Yeah.
All of us are either married or have significant others. That if our significant others were being attacked, we would be like, "Yo, it's on like Donkey Kong."
Yeah, how am I the bad guy?
Right? How am I the bad guy here? And here it is with Roderick. And Roderick Strong is a great heel. I never really liked him as a face. I don't want him to be a face. I just want him to be a heel who's a manly heel and going to defend his family.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that in '89 I was 1 year old.
Yep.
And
no
I was
worries.
2.
I was 13. Thank you very much.
I was not existing yet.
I was waiting for that one. I was like, Nick's gonna be the one that's gonna drop it.
I was not alive in '99. So I guess this we'll shift this off and talk about the Cruiserweight title because it is now being treated with some respect in NXT as opposed to being, just 205 Live. It looks like Lio Rush will be taking on Jordan Devlin next week as well. I think it's too early for this strap to change. I think Devlin will take this. It'll just be another fun matchup. Gentlemen, real quick before we get on to NXT Portland, who do you think will win next week this Cruiserweight belt?
I'll tell you what, the fact that you just, if we replay what you just said, Lio Rush, NXT Championship, that guy has had a whirlwind last year. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy that he's back on track. Things backstage seem to have been cooling down. I think he needed to leave Raw to go back to NXT. And I'm very happy for Lio Rush. And you just keep the rocket on Lio Rush.
Yeah.
Keep it strapped.
I would, yeah.
So you're taking him over Jordan Devlin?
I would, yeah.
So,
I do.
So Devlin only holds the title for a couple weeks, and
I think Lio. Well, you know what? That's a good point. Maybe you have a non-finish.
That's kind of what I was thinking, and all that is Lio Rush doesn't necessarily have to eat a clean loss on this, but I think I just don't see Jordan Devlin as being a transitional champion.
They're very high. They're very high on Jordan Devlin backstage. Yeah. They're very, very high.
Yeah,
on
I think Lio Rush has a lot to prove right now.
Yeah, I think Lio Rush is not going to win next week, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that shows Devlin being another champion and just proving that he is a good, relatable, believable champion as a cruiserweight. I guess, and to continue on, and they always have fresh matches, which is nice.
I would assume the Cruiserweight title would be defended at Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
So
on the pre-show.
Oh, yeah, even NXT will do it. Right. Even NXT will do it on the kickoff.
Nah, I got it pegged as the first matchup. I could see them doing a lightning fast, very first matchup of NXT Tampa Bay.
We mentioned it before. Every one of the opening and closing are always they're booking so well.
Them and AEW produce the best opening matches and segments. They are head and shoulders above everyone else. So I guess we'll just dive right into NXT Portland and get your thoughts before our timer just runs out. Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. Any chance Bianca Belair wins this match?
I mentioned before off air earlier in the week, I think it's going to be a no contest. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think Charlotte will either game. Well, something's going to happen. I think Charlotte will be there. And my hope, my booking is we get a triple threat at WrestleMania. Bianca, because she showed off what she can do at the Rumble, and it was amazing. Bianca versus Rhea versus Charlotte. And whoever wins that match, no one looks bad.
So do you think that match will... That's another thing, too, is Tampa Bay, we were just talking about with the Cruiserweight title, is right before WrestleMania. And I would assume the NXT Women's title will be defended at NXT Tampa Bay. Otherwise, it seems like a wasted opportunity. Do you think just Belair gets that singles opportunity and then Charlotte will face that winner? She'll play it off. She'll cost the match, like you said, no contest, and continue to go. Remy, do you think that's something possible to happen since they have 2 pay-per-views back-to-back on that weekend?
I kind of just... I've been thinking about this, and kind of want Rhea Ripley to just go over on this.
So Rhea Ripley just wins this weekend and just starts that whole program with Charlotte.
I mean, I feel like she kind of has to. That's not a knock against Bianca Belair either.
So do you think that there's no way Charlotte would just go down and not be at WrestleMania and she'll just wrestle at Tampa Bay? That eventually we'll have to talk about a new opponent then. For Rhea Ripley, there has to be more obstacles for her to go through. Mark, do you see it as being that way? Rhea
Ripley has to go over, but you have to do so in a way that doesn't bury Belair.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay.
That's what was racking my brain in all this.
So I have a no contest and 2 Rhea Ripley clean wins.
Yeah, sure. Well, but it would make sense if Charlotte interfered.
And led towards Tampa Bay, because that's the thing that's blocking me here.
I could also see what you're saying, Nick. I could see a title change. Forget this weekend, but maybe if you said you're right, if they defended the women's title the night before in Tampa, having announced a possible triple threat, or Charlotte faces the winner, having Belair win at Tampa, and then Charlotte beating Belair, and you never have the Charlotte versus Rhea match that everybody's been kind of clamoring for, and he saved that for maybe SummerSlam. So like, there's a couple different ways they can go, but I think if you pull the plug now, because you're kind of leading up to it, but you're leading up to it without a yes or no answer. Like Charlotte is playing this quite well.
It's an interesting storyline going across NXT and Raw with her, and I like your idea. My weird fantasy booking would have been having the both NXT titles, men and women's, being defended on WrestleMania, and Takeover Tampa being a blow off for everything else. So North American, tag, Cruiserweight, and whatever random storylines we have, like a Kushida or something, like whatever we're playing off, just to have that as a blowover, and then the two main titles be on WrestleMania.
You think the NXT title will be at WrestleMania? I don't.
I hope so. I think so.
I think it's only fair. I don't see. Yeah, I can see Vince saying no and Triple H pushing for it. I don't want it to be diminished though. I worry that it would be on the kickoff, which for WrestleMania we don't need.
I absolutely don't see it being on the kickoff.
If you don't defend the NXT title at WrestleMania, like how do you expect people to treat NXT as a competition to AEW?
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel about it. They want it to be a third brand. They have to treat it
That's
like
perfect
a third brand.
Marketing too, having it at WrestleMania. Most people, so many people tune into WrestleMania no matter what.
What shows were the ones that NXT was actually beating AEW, like head-to-head in ratings?
Yeah, very rare.
It was the shows when you had like Raw and SmackDown stars showing up on NXT.
Building up to Survivor Series.
Has an NXT defended their title on a major show? Was it defended at the Royal Rumble?
Survivor Series.
Well, yeah, I mean, but that's the whole gimmick of Survivor Series.
Well, that started it. So why not just, this is the next big... Well, the Royal Rumble wasn't defended at the Rumble.
That's what I'm saying. That's what's throwing me off is they have their own niche with that Saturday night crowd that loves them. That I just don't... I understand the Rhea Ripley thing because it just falls into a storyline that you have a Royal Rumble winner versus the NXT Women's Champion. That's what they're going for. I get that. Because the Rumble winner is not going to want to go down to NXT on their little rinky-dink Saturday pay-per-view. That's how she's viewing it.
That's how
versus WrestleMania. I understand that, but the NXT title defended 2 nights in a row. How do you shake that out?
Yeah, exactly. And me saying the men's being defended at WrestleMania, I'm fine if it's not either. It could be on Takeover. I'm okay, and the women's only being focused on WrestleMania. Right. I'm just in my head. I would assume both. If one's gonna be on there, why not both? And then have the mid card, Cruiserweight, and the other storylines that need to blow over from like another Dakota Kai, Tegan Nox, Candice LeRae, because then that could be number one contendership.
Right. I wouldn't mind the NXT title being at WrestleMania either. My only problem is just, what storyline do you build in 24 hours after a blow-off match? Because I'm assuming that
it's rare that we get something that's like 24 hours.
Right.
WrestleMania is so set in stone.
It would have to be something like, we're the Undisputed Era. We challenge anybody. John Cena shows up, and then he beats John Cena.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like that. Okay.
I would love that, but I just don't see that happening. Yeah. I see him knocking on Aleister's black story. That's what I see, honestly.
I like that.
He never backs down from chance. So we'll shift over to a major grudge match with Finn Balor versus Johnny Gargano. Predictions, gentlemen. Carlos, we'll start with you. Who do you see winning this matchup? It's a straight singles match, not a street fight or anything. Maybe Johnny gets ahead of himself?
Yeah, Johnny's his worst enemy storyline-wise in the past, so I wouldn't be surprised. Anytime it gets personal for Johnny, that's when it starts falling apart. Mm-hmm. We've seen that in NXT Philadelphia when, or Takeover Philadelphia when Andrade beat him and stuff. He got ahead of himself, and Zelina had the DIY stuff. So this is a different storyline, obviously. I would assume Finn goes over clean. I don't see any, maybe no shenanigans. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. He's a heel, so that's fine. But I see Finn going over, and that doesn't diminish Gargano.
Remy, do you see Finn Balor winning this matchup, or Gargano building back towards?
It's Finn 100%. Like, and with no disrespect to Gargano, but Finn, I feel like for the sake of credibility, like coming back up, needs to win this match. Like, we've had a lengthy history now of just Finn Balor being, booked poorly or not treated well, And NXT, has been reinvigorating for Finn Balor, but he needs to win.
Yeah, I was thinking back to that Ilya Dragunov match at Worlds Collide, and Finn had such a great showing, and he was not super heelish, but he was there. It was like it was there. It was bubbling under the surface, which was perfect.
So if Finn Balor do you have Finn Balor winning? Yes or no?
Well, everything you guys said makes 100%, so I'm going to go with Gargano.
Okay.
Because quite frankly, I think we're gonna win the match because this is gonna be.
And how WWE on WWE.com has it, it looks like it might be the opening match. So if that's the opening match and Cole and Tommaso Ciampa are the closing, we'll go again. They book in by amazing matches as always.
I mean, yeah, if that's your opening match, I mean, what more as wrestling fans could you ask for?
I'll have a nice long bathroom break in between.
So we'll shift over to the Dusty Rhodes Classic winners, the Broserweights, versus the Undisputed Era for the Tag Team Championships. Mark, who do you see winning this matchup? Is it just another instance where a mashed up tag team wins the titles, has a little run with it, whatever, then the heels get another notch on their belt?
Right. I could definitely see the Broserweights winning the titles. I don't see it happening here. This is a feud that could extend to WrestleMania. If done right, they'll have several weeks of TV in between. So yes, I see a makeshift tag team winning the tag team titles, but not here.
Carlos?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to the Undisputed Era. I just personally because no offense to the Broserweights, just the makeshift tag teams are a little frustrating when it comes to the Dusty Classic.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I don't mind it. So far, the Broserweights are the only ones that seem so believable.
Right, they even have their own name as a team.
Yeah, exactly. This is not like a Samoa Joe Finn Balor situation.
It's more like a Team Hell No Kane Daniel Bryan thing.
Yeah,
where they're both very different.
And that's why I see the Undisputed winning now, and maybe the Broserweights winning at Takeover Tampa, which is perfectly fine because you get a couple more weeks to build them up as oh no, we are a unit now.
What do you think, Remy? Do you think the cracks will start to really? Because Roderick Strong lost the North American title, so we're looking at if they potentially lose the tag titles, it's just Adam Cole with the gold. We'll discuss that later.
We'll see,
but
to agree with you guys, I am not a fan of makeshift tag teams, and so much I've been failing, I think, to account for build up to WrestleMania and all of this. But I'm gonna be the contrarian here, and I see the Broserweights going over.
Okay. I personally see Undisputed Era winning. I agree with Carlos and Mark. I can see this being extended. They are all great wrestlers, but the cracks are showing very much so that it might be the Undisputed Era's end of their run. So I guess we'll switch over to the North American Championship. Keithley versus I can't even pronounce it.
Dominic Dijakovic.
Yeah, you guys are better at that than I am. I don't want to butcher that gentleman's
I had to say it slow.
Yes, yeah.
He's what is he, 6'6"? Yeah,
Dijakovic?
Yeah.
Dijakovic.
Dijakovic.
That's how it's spelled. Yes, you're right. I'm
Dominic
sorry.
Dijakovic. Oh, there we go. One shot, one try. I will never try it again. Gentlemen, who do you see winning this? This seems like just another great matchup. They've had 3 or 4 matches already
in NXT alone. Not to mention the Indies, PWG.
Yeah, they're great dance partners. I just don't see Keithley losing.
Yeah, this is a gimme in my book. I think that it's Keithley all the way.
Yeah,
I would bet the house.
Same, yeah. Keithley is gonna go all the way. It's gonna be an amazing match. This is gonna be. It could be the match of the night.
Yeah, definitely. I could.
That's my pick for match of the night.
They're great dance partners. My match of the night, oddly enough, is going to be the street fight between Dakota Kai and Tegan Nox. There is some bad blood there, and I see them two going all out. Do you see Tegan Nox getting revenge, or is this Dakota Kai's continued rise to the main top as the main event NXT Women's heel?
I think it's Dakota Kai in my book. I don't know why you would want to stop now.
Right. Continue that onslaught of her just being selfish and about herself and trying to get to the very top, something that's eluded her the whole time at NXT, that women's championship. Mark, do you see this being the same?
I say you put the rocket on Kai. Yeah, see what she can do. It was a nice heel turn that I think it's been a roller coaster because I think some weeks NXT does really well pushing that storyline, and other weeks they fall flat. A street fight is basically your chance to put it all out there, see what sticks.
Do all your moves.
They can have a great match, and that would really win some people over who kind of got lost in the shuffle. So, I say Dakota Kai.
They're former best friends, Carlos, so I don't see why not they wouldn't have a great match together.
That's actually was going to be my point, is that since they are actually friends, it's going to be fun to see them just go at it. Because they feel safe around each other, I'm sure, and they had that rapport.
They're both Aussies, right?
I believe so.
I know Tegan Knox is.
I think Kai is as well.
Okay, so that makes sense. That it's like.
Hopefully she's not from New Zealand. We just offended because that is like a thing.
yeah. We don't want to offend anybody. We'll pull up have the stats guy pull up that information and correct us at the end of the show. But it's just another thing that meshes them both well. In terms of knowing each other.
Yeah, I see Kai winning. And she's from New Zealand. I 100% apologize, Dakota Kai.
We are sorry, Dakota Kai. You're from New Zealand.
That is the thing. Yeah, you don't call an Aussie a Kiwi and vice versa. I am so sorry.
I said nothing. I apologize for nothing.
All right.
So for the final matchup of the night, we have Adam Cole, baby, versus Tommaso Ciampa in search for Goldie one more time. Do you gentlemen think he will take his title back and start a whole ruckus going towards WrestleMania? Or do you just see more of the same for Adam Cole and having another notch on his belt? We'll start with Remy.
Adam Cole, best in the world. Like, the top guy. Like, somebody that you can keep building and building and building. Like, I would want to see how far you can go with Adam Cole. And to me, it makes no sense to take the top prize in NXT off of him right now. I mean, it's going to be a great match. It's going to be a really great match. But I think Adam Cole goes over 100%.
To go off of that, he's PWI's Wrestler of the Year, correct?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. So, like, I'm going to go with Cole. And I don't think that's anything bad toward Ciampa. I think they could play the story off correctly where it doesn't diminish Ciampa at any point. And they could have a blowover at either Takeover, Tampa, or WrestleMania. And maybe someone else gets involved. Who knows? Finn Balor, right? He wanted the title. Have him go after it. Or have a four-way where it's Gargano, Finn, Cole, and Ciampa. And I would have Ciampa win there.
I'm going to fantasy book here. Cole goes over.
Okay.
But I am not feeling, and I love Ciampa. I've loved Ciampa since his days in Ring of Honor when he had hair. I'm a big fan of Ciampa. I think he's not hitting his stride as a face. I am not liking his current face program. So I think Cole wins. Tommaso gets upset, gets hurt, gets mad. Fires him up. And down the road, you see him become so obsessed with having to win that championship back, which they've kind of planted the seeds for. I want Goldie back. They've planted the seeds for that. He's been teaming with Gargano, and we all know that is just a combustible situation.
Yep.
I would love to see Ciampa win the title again down the road, maybe in another 6 months to a year, but not tonight. Not tomorrow night. Ciampa loses here, but I would love to see a build towards a heel turn where he just goes all out. Maybe you have someone like Gargano win it again, and then Ciampa takes out Gargano, or maybe you have Keith Lee beat Cole for it, and then Ciampa just goes nuts because he couldn't win it. That's what I would like to see.
I like that idea.
Sorry, I just noticed this. Is greatest Royal Rumble winner Mansoor calling the action on the pre-show?
Yeah, he's gonna be on the pre-show with Charlie Caruso and Sam Roberts. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that either. But yeah, I like that. I like that. No, it's fine. It's hysterical. Yeah, I agree with that, Mark. I like that storyline. Do you think they could build off a Ciampa being an in-betweener?
Well,
or like
they could.
Dream is like pretty much an in-betweener, and it works so well. And
they could build, and you know what? Insert that there. Forget heel turn. Yeah. He just has to be crazy.
Yeah.
And he just needs to like take out some.
He's a psycho killer, right? That's his name, Psycho Killer.
So I see that happening. I don't see it happening here. Like you need to build to that and have it be a crescendo.
Yeah. First off, let me apologize to Tegan Knox. She's from Wales, not from Australia.
We are dumb Americans.
Yeah. So just chalk that up for USA. So to circle back around to Cole and Ciampa, I see Ciampa winning. I know that sounds crazy, but I am smelling Undisputed Era either moving or they're trying to get the belts off of them and make them back into this crazy unit that just went stir crazy at each opponent and attacked you like, sharks attacking guppies. I don't know. Like I said earlier, I don't see them losing the tag titles. That's just because I'm not a fan of makeshift teams, but that doesn't exclude the fact that I think Ciampa's never lost that belt. He's going to want to continue that whole mindset, and it just gives the Undisputed Era something more to do. Because then if Adam Cole wins, I guess Finn Balor's next up on the docket.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah. But
how do you play that off?
Right, so I see Finn coming after Ciampa and trying to hurt Ciampa. Yeah. Maybe even having Ciampa win, and then Finn putting Ciampa out with a neck injury or a faint neck injury.
Yeah, a la Edge, yeah.
And then having them, like you said, a fatal four-way. I mean, I don't know what Gargano has done to deserve a shot at the title.
They could build it up. There's enough time to build it up.
They could fix it up. And I just see Ciampa winning because you can plot more storylines as it goes along. And then, like Mark said, if he loses it along the way or something happens, then he's injured, has to give it up again, goes really freaking crazy, and is like, all right, now I'm doing whatever I need to do to make sure I'll never lose this belt again.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, how crazy is it that you're mentioning, like, not to sound nuts or whatever, but it doesn't. NXT's booked so well that a lot of these matches go either way, and I wouldn't be upset.
Right.
If Tegan Knox wins, I'm not upset.
Right.
And if Ciampa wins and I'm going for Cole, I'm not upset because I think they could build off like better storylines than the quote unquote main roster can in these situations.
100%. I was gonna say, back in the day, '88, the Four Horsemen were a dominant group. The best version had Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, Barry Windham, and Ric Flair. All four men had the gold at the same time. Tully and Arn lost the tag titles. They regained them. They were all champions, but they didn't have to be champions at the same time. So I'm thinking if you have Thomas Ciampa win the title and you have the tag team titles stay with Undisputed Era, you could always do it. You can do a transitional change. You can have Ciampa win the title and then on a random NXT show, you want to build ratings, have a world title match. Oh, Ciampa loses the rematch. You don't have to have this, we love the build. We as fans, we love the build. We love to see the climax. But I'm okay with quote-unquote hot shot booking if it's going to make sense. If you have Ciampa win tomorrow night, win that title, and Adam Cole gets enraged, invokes his rematch clause for 2 weeks from now, you're building up 2 weeks for fans to tune in. You know you're going to see Adam Cole, a hungry, angry, determined Adam Cole. So there's a lot that can happen. And like you said, Carlos, we will win because the booking is so good with NXT that regardless of who wins, it's going to be good.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I think that hotshot booking every week has been so strong. And we opened up before we did predictions with now we know that Roderick and Dream is happening this Wednesday, and we have Leo Rush versus Angel Garza this Wednesday as well. Right. Does that seem weird? No, it doesn't seem weird. It doesn't seem weird at all. Yeah, build it up. And they do so well with their weekly shows, especially being 2 hours now, that it's not bad to see a title change in there. I mean, Keithley won. Rhea Ripley won. Rhea Ripley won, the Christmas episode or the week before, correct?
Yeah, right.
Of NXT. And look,
Shayna Baszler was unstoppable.
Yeah. And look at that ending.
That won them that week.
Yeah, it won them that week. That ending alone, that image of Rhea being held up by the whole NXT roster with the title is amazing. And that was a great way to end that night and a great way to end that week. I think that was the strongest show that week for all brands. So why not just continue to do it? Like, they do so well with their weekly shows. It's not weird if a world title change happens.
That's the best thing about NXT, though, is that, like you said, we cannot determine who will win or be upset at who would win because there's so many storylines that can go off of the winners. And the in-ring action is always top-notch, so we never complain about that. I just see Ciampa winning this and going forward as your world champion.
Yeah.
So I guess that'll wrap us up for this week's show. Gentlemen, you want to give any final thoughts? We've pretty much corrected ourselves
along the way.
Sorry, Tegan Knox again.
Yeah. Apologies to team.
I'll make a quick note. Last week, the XFL did pretty good in the ratings, and that was one of my some pretty good stuff.
I enjoyed. I liked how the rules are set up.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the rules. That's
Like
actually my favorite
thing. The
thing.
kickoff, the transparency with the.
It's so tense. The kickoff.
Yeah.
And the
They
transparency
can't
with
move
the,
until
with
the
the
ball's in
flags.
there.
Yeah. This person. Like I saw one game, the guy fell down, picked himself back up, and then fumbled. And they were like, no, he got himself back up, so that's a fumble.
Yeah.
Call that a fumble. Took 30 seconds, and we were back to football.
How about the 2 forward pass that the quarterback
did
can throw it up
anybody do that?
forward,
I
not
didn't see
lateral?
anybody
No,
do
no one did. But midway through, what was it? The highlight game, the Renegades and
The Renegade.
I don't know.
I can't remember. I'm not familiar with the names yet, but it was the one that was on ESPN.
I know
what
what you're talking about.
Yeah. It was whatever the Sunday night game was, and midway through the game, I was like, I need to know the rules because I forgot to look them up, and I just switch over to YouTube, watch the rules, and the fact that they have forward passing, you don't have to do it lateral, and then keep moving. I thought that was really interesting too. It's going to show at some point today or tomorrow.
Right, and this week is going to be important. We'll see if those viewers continue.
Yeah,
because it's gonna show. Well, guys, we covered a bunch of topics today, and I hope that we all enjoy tomorrow night's Portland. We thank you all for listening to our podcast. We want you to follow us on Twitter at The Entrance Ramp Pod.
Also
like
Instagram.
us on Facebook. What's that?
Oh, no.
It's the same username for Twitter and Instagram. Yeah.
And so Instagram, Twitter, Entrance Ramp Pod, Facebook at The Entrance Ramp Podcast, and of course, subscribe to us on YouTube. We want those views, guys. We thank you very much for listening to us, and we will see you next week on The Entrance Ramp. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Entrance Ramp Podcast. Please like us on Facebook at the Entrance Ramp Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at the Entrance Ramp Pod, and subscribe to us on YouTube by searching for the Entrance Ramp Podcast. We'll see you next time.